Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Hive with Us podcast. We have, of course, a guest that we're bringing on today, and we actually met the gentleman on Twitter. You know, we were talking about land, he was talking about land, and we connected. And it's really cool how meeting a complete stranger online, where your business, your business model, your values, and what you're up to align in such a way. It's like, man, why are we not working together? Because we're doing the exact same thing. We're heading in the same direction. So I think this could lead to a really cool conversation. Want to introduce everybody to my boy Jazz on here.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, we met on Twitter. It was great because Daniel and I were kind of going back and forth about these dividend investors and their 4% returns and things like that. We were like, hey, we have things that get you 100, 300, 500% returns. Why not do this? And then we started talking in the DMs, and here we are.
So can you introduce your partner so everybody knows?
Yeah. This is my partner, Zuhayr Khan. He's actually the one that got me into land investing. So a little bit of background on myself. Coming into college, I'm 24, so I, freshly out of college, maybe like 2-3 years ago. I was pre-med, but I felt like I was always business minded. I finally graduated, did the whole honors, did the whole, neuroscience research, all that kind of stuff. And then when I got into the field, I was realizing like, hey, we need to make money. And like a lot of that was like kind of the biggest thing was like, how can I make money without, actually trading my time? And so I was trading in the stock market. It was going well. And then it just got too risky for me. So I was in the neuroscience lab with Zuhayr actually. And then I was like, complaining to him, and he was like, hey, my dad and I have been doing land for a while. You should come check this out. And then, long story short, we did a couple deals together, and then we realized, this is a good partnership to have. And now we want to share it with everyone else.
Dude, amazing. So what were you guys doing in neuroscience?
Yeah. So we actually went to Cal Poly Pomona, and neuroscience. I've always just been a curious kid, and science is just one of those things where it's like there's ultimately like a lot of things that are unknown out there. So I wanted to help uncover that. My job particularly, it was like in the lab, really like setting up the experiments, monitoring the experiments. It's almost another life now that I think about it. But man, yeah, it was kind of boring. I'd rather be flipping land to be honest.
Yeah, the research we were doing involved monitoring dopamine cycles and food anticipatory behavior. So if you have like mice, right, and you feed them at noon every single day, right, these mice get trained to like think they're about to get food every day at 12 o'clock. So they start getting excited and they move around, right? And we measured that activity. We sort of played around with it, manipulated it. What happens if you don't give them food at this time? Like, how does their behavior change? Or, right? We just monitored that behavior and saw how this tied into ultimately what was called a circadian rhythm, right? So it's like you have like your rhythm biological clock, and at different hours of the day, right, your body releases different chemicals. So that's what we like in a nutshell what we were working on together.
Man, that's pretty cool. So that another level of overlap between us and you. I'm a science nerd, man. I'm a bit like of a scientist, like literally, like I got some stuff around the house, yeah, that it would take a couple episodes to cover. But yeah, I'm like really big into like exercise recovery, all that kind of stuff. Experimental, I don't want to say drugs, but experimental products, like healing and all kinds of stuff like that, man. So I go down a deep rabbit hole in that space. Yeah, I've done a lot in that area.
That's awesome for sure.
So here, your second generation real estate. How long have you been doing real estate, and how long has your dad been doing real estate too?
So it's been about 6 or 7 years now, right? My dad, he's always been business minded, and he was hacking at different things, like I remember growing up, right? He was in the stock market. He wrote his own book. He was like, he's works in the hospital. So he wrote a course on, students who want to pursue ultrasound. So he like has 3 editions of his book. So he just hacked at, so many different things. And then he finally landed on land. And now I was finally of age where I could actually like help and contribute to my dad too, So this was sort of my way of giving back to my dad because, he raised me. I always had food on the table. My way of giving back to him was helping him with the land, right? So it started with just like, learning little things here and there. And then over the course of 6-7 years now, like I've gotten pretty good training. I know the ins and outs of buying and selling land. And it's really been eye-opening because, right, you try all these different things, right? Like, oh, maybe work a 9 to 5 or you write this book or whatever. But at the end of the day, right, what creates the most billionaires? And that's real estate. And that's becoming more and more apparent as I grow older. When I was like 20, I didn't maybe realize the value of land. Now I'm driving, I see a piece of dirt, and I'm like, yo, yeah, I need that.
This show is sponsored by Hivemind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the Hivemind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
I'm teaching a friend of mine, man. He was actually a really good friend of mine. I've known him probably going on 15 years, and I worked at a timeshare company for a couple of years. I grew up in construction, but veered off for a little while. Went and checked that out. This guy's teaching me sales at a very high level, and I didn't even know you can tap into the human psychology like that, right? Like through the use of sales, and actually how deep that rabbit hole goes. That's a science in of itself. So he was training me for years, man, and just like putting me into a whole different universe where you can kind of like, I feel like the human being is almost like a robot, like a machine, right? With software. And you can hack into it. You can hack into somebody's brain, push all the buttons, change their mind, and steer them in a different direction, like immediately, like on a dime. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that, right? I thought we were more autonomous than that. But no, really, really cool guy, interesting guy. You guys will definitely get to meet him pretty soon. But he's just getting involved in real estate, and we're driving around. He's going to the ranches now. He's going to invest with us on some deals. Like we're just checking all this stuff out. And I was driving by. I said, dude, think about it. If you're a real estate investor, you're looking for a fourplex or an apartment complex or self-storage or something. I said, but all the money right there. See all those trees and all that grass field? That's all the cash.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody, every day you drive by it and you see no value there, right? Or some trees and some grass. And everybody drives by it on the way to their fourplex. Meanwhile, they just drove by a $2 million deal, right? So it's interesting to think about. It's like if you're not living in that world, you don't see the value. You don't see where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
So one thing I really want to ask, as far as like, how old are you guys? Because you guys both look young. You guys talk about college. You're probably younger than both of us. How long you guys been doing? How old are you guys, and how long you been doing land?
So I'm 24. I started doing land probably about COVID, right around COVID time. So 2020, probably been about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also 24. I've been doing land like 6-7 years now.
Insane, dude. 24 years old. I was like probably on a construction site painting for like $15 an hour. God, you guys have been flipping land for 7 years, dude. Like, I can imagine. I always tell everybody, if I got involved in this stuff when I was like in high school, right out of high school, I'd be a billionaire by now for sure.
Yeah. But that's the plan,
That's me. I'm 41, so I'm the old guy in the room.
So tell us a little about your investment strategy, like your purpose, because I know you guys, we talked a little bit beforehand that you guys like helping newer people get into land space. I like making fun of people on Twitter about their returns. Me and Jazz, like the reason why me and Jazz like coincide, we're both making fun of everybody, and like we're not investing, making fun of everybody. So it's always the fun part on Twitter, at least. But tell us a little about your mission and what do you guys do right now.
Sure. I mean, so right now we've kind of structured our program to do at a quick glance, there's 3 different phases. There's a knowledge phase, kind of get everyone up to speed about, what the program is, what the process looks like. Then there's the acquisition phase where we'll teach them how to, do the due diligence, how to acquire the property, whether it's, texting, mailers, auctions, or actually other land investors, things like that. And then finally, it's the closing phase. How do you deal with the leads? How do you follow up with the leads? Because I feel like that's one of the biggest things is, there's hungry buyers, which you can find on the paid advertising. And then there's ones that are like, they kind of have their foot in the door. They're like iffy about it, things like that. So really navigating those situations is, something we're going to be sharing in our program. But as for the strategy we use, I know you guys tend to do larger acreage, things like 50, 100 acre lots, things like that. On our end, we're mostly focused on those sub 1 acre lots. And so completely different buyer base, a little bit different of a marketing strategy, but ultimately the same thing, land.
Yeah, it's like a nice niche we found of parcels that are, under a certain price range, and that makes it really accessible for elementary investors who, they might not want to put like 10,000 into a business idea, right? They only have like 3 or 4 or 5,000 that they're willing to. Of course, you can't really lose in land, right? If you guys have probably noticed, right? Land always appreciates. You can't really lose in land. But right, people when they're looking to get into investing, right? They're uncertain. They're like, I don't know the process. 5,000, right? That's taken me like a whole year to save up. Now I just have to put it into a piece of dirt that's like in a different state, like. So it's really clearing the fog and showing the direct path to light in the tunnel that we like to show our students. Really, it's really a step-by-step process of our methodologies that we use, and our methodologies are very straightforward for someone to pick up. And I feel like I know based on what a couple of our students have said so far, it's like we're doing a pretty decent job on educating them and equipping them with the knowledge they need to conduct due diligence, to make a nice listing that is attractive, and using sales psychology to negotiate with customers.
Dude, love it, man. So what's the bigger picture here? So you guys are going to bring on some students, run some training. You have a course that they're going to run through. You're planning on partnering with these people long term, or is it just like, are they in it for 30 days or 60 days and then they're moving on, or kind of where's this thing headed?
Sure. Yeah, I think, the bigger picture is always kind of growing that network and then having more friends in the space. Because, ultimately, if you want to go far, you go by yourself. Or sorry, if you want to go, fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go with other people. And, at its base, everyone's going to run out of capital soon, but like syndication, that's where, the deals continue to flow. Partnerships ultimately, make this thing a whole lot better, funner for everybody.
Yeah, like as you guys know, right, U.S. has like 2.4 billion acres of land. Just because your friend owns some land or your student owns some land, that doesn't necessarily mean you're losing now, right?
Yeah.
Land really is like a game where collaboration is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say it all the time is that there's more inventory in land than any other asset class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So people are like, oh, I go after multifamily. I'm like, good luck fighting with the other 1,000 people in multifamily.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing. It's the smallest niche within real estate, but it's, the most profitable, easiest to get going. Like people don't even consider it because they look at a piece of dirt and they don't know how they can monetize it. And that's just the biggest thing where it's like if you just open your eyes, train those eyes, you're sitting on a gold mine.
Yeah, and my dad says it all the time. Like this whole process technically is like all digital. A lot of times you don't see the land, you don't see the customer, and you don't even see the money because it's like a wire transfer, So it's like
Doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
What markets are you guys in? And like, are you like in like one specific states, or are you all over the place like us a little bit?
Yeah. So right now, we've kind of stuck to California at one just because we live here, and we know the rules and regulations here pretty closely. So California right now, Kern County, Humboldt County, all over the coast, things like that. And then we tried to go to Arkansas. So we have like a couple properties in Arkansas. Those are proven to be a little bit harder to sell just because our main buyer base is in California. But yeah, I mean, based on the trends, it looks like people are really moving out of California. So we're probably going to start going towards, the other states, thinking like Texas, the Carolinas, really anything in like the middle of the United States. That's kind of like what I'm noticing tends to have a lot more of like the immigration going for it. So that's where, we might be expanding.
Florida, Texas, Carolinas, Georgia, these places they're gonna explode for a long time. Mostly red states.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to get into New York.
Oh no. We'll not be touching that one.
Like the states where the population is actually decreasing in a time when Florida and Texas are exploding. Right, so the demand here is tremendous. I was half expecting to see a slowdown, right? With this looming recession. I don't know whether we're in one or not yet, whatever is considered, and technically we are. But I think that we haven't seen any slowdown in land sales at all, man. Like literally, I think we've gotten more contracts in the last 90 days than we ever have before.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing. It's like a recession. Like if you're not actively selling your land, it becomes a liability for you just because you have to pay those property taxes. So it's really in the best interest of a seller or like somebody who owns the land that's not monetizing it to kind of get rid of it. Like, and instead of paying like 2,000, like a couple thousand per year on property taxes, you now have money in your pockets. So it just makes sense for them to kind of sell it, and then the land investors really take it from there.
Yeah, and, like, in a time where money is needed, right? Everything's so expensive, right? I think just a month ago, right? Eggs, everyone here knows how expensive eggs have gotten, right? So it's like a lot of times these children, they inherit this land from their parents or their trust, and like these kids, they don't see the value of land, and $10,000, $50,000 to them is a great deal.
I made a video on YouTube probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's called Wholesaling and 1,000 Years of Wealth. And the whole premise of the video is that, grandpa works his whole life, to come up with his land, leaves it to his kids. Mom and dad work their whole life, right, on the land. And then the kid gets it, inherits it, and dumps it.
Yeah.
You pick up 200 years worth of wealth in a single transaction, and then you do that over and over and over again. It's like, that's actually amazing. You can accumulate several lifetimes of savings and just a handful of transactions. So I thought that was fascinating.
So one thing I want to mention about this, that we're talking about this topic, is that I tweeted because I really thought about it, because like single family, multifamily, they really they refinance and get and sell those properties all the time. The land kind of stays with the family and it kind of gets passed down. There's a lot of equity. So my statement was there's probably trillions of dead equity in land just sitting there, untapped. No mortgage, no nothing, hasn't traded hands. It's just dead equity, whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
Just sitting there.
Houses, apartments, self-storage, you're constantly pulling the equity out of those, right? And then they go reinvest it in something else, buy more of the asset. But the product itself is always getting drained of its equity. But land, dudes owned it for 60 years. Like, oh yeah, I grew up here on this farm. So nobody has ever touched that equity in 50 or 60 years. So that's an interesting concept that Daniel came up with, and we were talking about. Yeah, it's like you just have trillions and trillions of dollars sitting in the land, untapped. Nobody's going after it. Nobody's thinking about it. Nobody's looking for it, other than guys like ourselves, man. So yeah, I think it's a cool space to play in.
Yeah, that was a really good comment, right? It's really like the intangibles, like the potential of it,
And it's everywhere. I grew up in construction, so it's like I was doing lots of floors for years and years and years with my dad's company. And, we did tile and wood floors. So you measure inside of the house or the building, you have 1,000 feet of floor delay, 2,000, 4,000 feet of floor delay. That's a big job. It's a lot of money, super, super hard work, and you're making a couple grand a week. So, years later, I got into commercial roofing, and now I'm doing like big projects, right? 100,000 square feet and, multiple six-figure checks. And in my mind, I think I made it, 100 grand a deal, right? And then I remember just thinking about the process is like, going from inside of a house, the floors, to going into, commercial buildings on a roof now. And I'm thinking like, well, what's bigger than a commercial roof that I could possibly sell? And I was like, the only thing bigger than that would be the dirt. But it still didn't cross my mind that I was going to head into the land space yet. But I was just thinking like, there's nothing bigger than a big giant building other than the ground itself. And so now to be playing in that space, like, okay, all right. I see the transition, like everything that's built up on top of it. So no regrets. I used to hate that I grew up in construction. I felt like it was a lot of time wasted, but it was a lot of a good learning experience. Taught me like hard work, right? So I see people in the land business, they get tired or they get exhausted, and then they don't want to do it anymore. Like they get burned out, mentally burned out. And I'm like, man, you would have never made it in construction. We're doing tile floors 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, like bloody hands, blood on your knees, and we're still working, getting the job done. And then these guys, like, they're clicking on Zillow and writing stuff down on a sheet of paper, and they get burned out. Like, man, get the hell out of
here. Yeah. No, I feel like burnout is like it's like a symbol that something needs to be rethought or like redone in your process, because a lot of the time things can be automated or just streamlined, but people just haven't thought of it. So when burnout comes to me, it's just kind of like take a step back, figure out what's the most time intensive thing and really, try to automate it or, delegate it or something like that.
Yeah. A lot of times when I feel burnt out, it's just because like sometimes I just feel overwhelmed, right? Is that taking a step back and just writing out, what is it that I need to do, and then just get started on it. That, removes that stress.
Also remembering, why you wanted to do this in the first place. That helps a lot for me.
Yeah. You guys might have heard of the term called cognitive loading, right? So it's like when you have too many windows open on your computer,
Yep.
same inside of your brain. So
Yep.
if you have too many pending things open all at the same time, that can create burnout, right? Because your body's trying to do too much, your brain's trying to do too much. Like, man, I got 400 things I got to do. Where do I start?
Mhm.
So one thing that I did, a habit that I've learned, is I write down the most important things with a dry erase marker on my mirror. Like those
Yeah.
are the most important things that I have. That's kind of like my to-do list, because I can wake up and I know what to knock out immediately. Well, it was Ty Lopez. I was listening to one of his podcasts, whatever, several years ago, and he said, take your to-do list for the next 90 days or the next 6 months. He said, and make it a goal to knock it out in the next 7 days. And I was like, holy crap, what a paradigm shift for me, because I had all this stuff on my to-do list that I thought I was going to have to, knock out over the next several months. But I'm like, if I really did buckle down, I could probably knock all this stuff out in a week. And sure enough, man, I think I blew through like 80 or 90% of that list, like in about maybe 2 weeks.
That's
wow.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's Parkinson's Law. It's like if you give yourself, like a week to do something, it'll take a week. Or if you give yourself, 7 hours to do something, it may take 7 hours. You may get it done, but you probably got a lot more done than what you initially would have done.
And the
Yeah.
beauty in that is that, like, when you complete these tasks in like a short amount of time, you're just always winning. And the important thing that I think a lot of people don't do is that when they see they're winning, right, they're like, oh, I can let my foot off the gas, right? And I think that's what really hinders people from like skyrocketing to success. It's, even though you're winning, you got to keep putting in the work. You can't stop until you finally got it like that.
I love that, man. There's something called the winner effect, like where you win at something and your body starts to create more dopamine, more of these neurochemicals that are going to make your body fire at a higher level and your brain fire at a higher level.
Yep.
And the more that you win, the more chemicals your body makes, so it makes it easier to win in the long run. So there's two different areas that I feel like you can actually train your nervous system to build up for something like this, right? So if you're not winning exactly in business, you can do it in fitness, right?
Yeah.
So like in CrossFit, like, so if you're making those like if you're hitting your diet, you're working out very, very often, especially like in CrossFit. I used to box when I was a kid, so like you're always pushing yourself beyond your normal like realm of comfortability, right? So you feel like, man, this is it. Like if I pick up that barbell right now, I'm probably gonna die. Right. Sure enough, you take a deep breath and you grab it and you pick it up again and you keep on going. So you're always pushing yourself past those limits, like multiple times per week. So I think it's easy to stay to keep your body telling yourself like, hey, I'm good at winning and I win often. So then when it comes again to business and other things, like everything seems easy. Like, so even sometimes it does get overwhelming. Like I have a million things to do, but it's like, I do this every day. Like I push through every single day. Like there's no way this is going to collapse me. And I did a podcast a couple months ago. They were interviewing me and they was like, what's like the probably the number one thing that you think about business? Like what would keep a person like engaged and being able to be successful? I was like, I think it's less about intelligence and it's more just about that brute strength, that when you are tired, when you are burned out, when you are intimidated, to be able to just push right through that without even trying. And I think you can easily get that from a place like CrossFit or something like that, where you're constantly pushing your body beyond its, like I said, normal comfort levels.
Yeah, and to maintain that level of performance, one thing I think that really is important for me to maintain is my schedule. I can't, like on the weekdays, I cannot be like messing up my sleep.
Yeah.
I can't be staying up late and then waking up on like 3 hours of sleep. On the weekdays, at least, I feel like that's what the weekdays are there for, to grind. And then it's the weekends where if you want to do it, you should still work like 2-3 hours, 4 hours on the weekends. But that's what the weekends are for, I guess. And the weekdays, no excuses, is what I like to tell myself.
Yep.
How do you guys lay out your schedule? How do you lay your day out?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, big fan of time blocking. And so I also have another business that I'm part of. It's ad tech marketing. So, like the 9 to 5 day part of my day is pretty much, dedicated to that. And then I'll come home, probably sit in like an hour's worth of traffic. Awful. And then I'll go straight to the gym. And then when I come back from the gym, it's probably, the land side of the business until I sleep.
Yeah, for me, usually I like wake up. I like to shower immediately when I wake up because I feel like I'd be taking like pretty long showers. I don't know, just like my room to think.
Yeah.
So getting that like just like out the way. I'm already like I already can like put my clothes on. So if I have to like go somewhere to meet someone, or I have to like go out to a coffee shop to have a different environment, I'm already ready. So I like to wake up and just shower like right when I wake up, and then just work throughout the day, and then I'll have dinner, and then after dinner I go to the mosque, and then after I go to the mosque I go to the gym. That's like every weekday.
You go to mosque every single day?
Yeah, once a day at least, because
That's
I'm Muslim and we have to pray 5 times a day.
Yeah.
So one of the 5 I'll do my best to go to the mosque.
That's amazing, man. So we have a 10 commandments for our group, for our mastermind. And one of those is a daily prayer and meditation. Yeah, morning and night. And I think that carries a long way in business. And that's something that nobody thinks about or talks about as well. So that's very, very powerful. That's cool, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, gratitude for sure. That's a big one. I feel like not that many people practice gratitude or daily meditation, prayer, anything of that nature.
Mhm.
But I was talking to my dad about this the other day, and he was just like, oh, like, because like sometimes when I'm super stressed, I'll do something completely like irrelevant to what I'm doing. Like, I think the last time it was like Call of Duty or something. He's like, why are you playing these games? And I was just like, I'm really just trying to like blow some steam off. And he's like, no, you should be praying. It's like a lot more effective. And then it's funny that you guys are bringing it up right now. So I guess maybe there is like a level of validity to that statement.
Dude, yeah. Literally, I couldn't sleep last night, right? I'm just excited about all these projects, and I'm designing the shopping center in my head.
Yeah.
And I felt comfortable. I just couldn't sleep. So I got up, and I'm like, stretching and meditating, like at 2 a.m, right? So what would I do with that dead time? What else am I going to do, right? Yeah, it was actually a really good night. I got a lot accomplished. I took a lot of notes, and it's just like some time to unwind and reflect, because you really can't do that during the day. And I think that's the kind of the point of it, right? Is that if you're always getting bombarded with messages and emails and phone calls all day long, when do you turn it off and kind of like, just go within and just, listen to the silence? Different people, different religions and beliefs, but like listen to the voice of God, and that's the only time you would have it, is when you're isolated, when you're by yourself. So that's a super, super key, I think, in business. That, like I said, I think that's probably first and foremost, and then everything else falls into place after that.
Yeah. You touched on that kind of blurb where you said like your brain, like, so when you meditate and prayer, things like that, that's one of the times your brain turns off. There's this thing in science, it's called like the default mode network. It's basically like a pattern of neurons that fire throughout the day when you do like regular tasks that you've always been doing. It's like when you wake up and go get a cup of water, like that's like an instinctual thing that you do. It's like one of the first things you do. There's like a pattern of neurons that always fires for that activity. So, prayer, meditation, those are one of the few things that actually turn that, like neural network off. So it's kind of giving your brain that refreshingness. It's almost like sleep in a way. It kind of turns your brain off. It allows you to like think deeper, think differently as well. So that's also one of the beneficial things about it. I don't know, a little nerd moment for me, I guess.
Yeah, I want to jump in on this now too. This is another topic that I could talk about for like weeks on end without a break.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes too, like again in business, like we're pushing ourselves to grow, right? We're doing this first big giant commercial deal. We've never even done a commercial deal. We jumped straight into a $5 million deal. It's like whenever you have all these challenges, or you have all these things that you're trying to face, you're trying to solve it with math, with critical thinking, right? Like with AI, we got all these problems we're trying to beat. I noticed that in meditation, right, that when you go really deep, like there is no goal, right? There's no goal of like, I'm not trying to solve anything at all. I'm going to completely turn everything off. It seems like all of those problems fix themselves, right? Yep. So 30 minutes later, an hour later, I come back and I'm like, oh, I got this. These little things that I thought were going to be these tremendous problems, they just kind of unwind and solve themselves without any participation from your own self. So again, it's another another reason why it's super powerful.
Yeah.
What's you guys' roles and responsibilities? Because I always like talking to people that are partners, just because it's a different dynamic than people that are solopreneurs almost, or lead as a one-man team. How big is your back-end team, and what do you guys do as far as shared responsibility?
Sure. So at the moment, it's literally just the two of us. We're really running the show here. But in terms of roles and responsibilities, Zuhayr's side is really just to be the educator, because he has, that leg up in terms of experience on my end. Like I've been doing it probably half as long as he has, so it only makes sense that he should be the one that's educating the people. And my job really is to kind of think outside the box in terms of like growth, expansion, things like that. Like, hey, maybe we should try this marketing strategy, or hey, maybe we should, acquire people like this. I'll handle some of the sales calls. We'll both do the sales calls. And then in terms of like acquisitions, I'd say that's also 50-50. It's just me like, scrolling through the internet or something, or like, and then like, hey, we should join this auction, or like, hey, I found this property. Let me go show it to Zuhayr. And if we agree, then we'll kind of, move forward with it. But for the most part, I'd say it's pretty 50-50. It's kind of like whatever my strength isn't, I'll hand it over to Zuhayr, and then vice versa.
Yeah, and that was a huge learning curve for me. Is that like everything in my life, I feel like I've done by myself, and now having a partner, it's understanding that like you have a partner for a reason, and as we progress working together, right? You start to learn that like what our individual strengths are and why we should stick to what we're good at, like even though we both could do something, right? Like why would we both do the same thing and instead of doing two different things? Now we're using our time more efficiently. Of course, like that overlap will always happen, right? That's like the nature of doing business, right? You got to sometimes do this, that, but like working together, we've really discovered our roles and we've really discovered how to maximize and capitalize on those roles. Like Jazz said, right? Jazz is really the outside thinker box, right? Like I'm not saying I'm conservative, but I'm better at nurturing what I have, right? So like with the company, nurturing, the quality of the material, nurturing, the students, nurturing, our foundation, and then Jazz is building on top. He's building, the 12th floor. He's building the 13th floor, and I'm making sure the foundation stays strong.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's kind of myself and Daniel. That's exactly what we do, man. We're complementary. Like he doesn't really do anything I do, and I don't do anything that he does. But what's really cool, and it's kind of like points to the name Hivemind, is like you could take like multiple people's brains and combine them into like a super brain.
Right.
So I was trying to figure out a subdivide, and I kind of couldn't really see an amazing strategy for this piece of property. And I'm looking at it, I'm scribbling it, I'm drawing it. So randomly, I just called Daniel, and then I'm showing him what I'm doing. Take a look at this. Comes up with this amazing idea, dude, for this killer subdivide. And that's not even really his department. But, us putting our heads together and just talking about it, like we found out an awesome layout that took that property from like 800,000 profit to almost 5 million profit, dude.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Just with a pencil and a sheet of paper, like in an hour. So it's like, yeah, we really do. Like I said, we work separately, but when we do combine our energy, yeah, like growth happens quickly and ideas happen. They flow quickly. Sometimes we're just on the phone for like 2 hours straight, just talking. We're going to do this and do this and this and that, and run it back and forth. And it's pretty cool to work with something like that.
What is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
Yeah. So I actually saw this one the other day. It's Mark Twain. They said, "Buy land. They're not making it anymore."
I love that one. I'm gonna get that tatted.
Yeah. And then, there's another one by Abraham Lincoln. It's kind of like the best way to predict the future is really to create it. And to me, that's kind of like if you want something done, do that by yourself. Like nobody else is gonna do it for you. Like just you're kind of like the champion of your own life. Go all in. Just do it to the best of your abilities.
Yeah, for me, I have like two I can share. The first is I'm really big on not letting my foot off the gas when like things are going good. I feel like in life, maybe that's been a factor why I haven't been like I've been doing pretty good, but like I feel like I could have done even more. And it's so basically, like, if you see a spaceship that's going into space, right? It doesn't stop for a single second. It's going full throttle the whole way. It like even though it made it out of the stratosphere, right? The spaceship's not like, all right, let's chill now and let gravity propel me in space. The spaceship keeps pushing forward, and that has been a huge help in my life because anytime like we were talking about burnout earlier, right? It's like you're winning, right? You should be able to take a day off, right? But it's breaking that momentum that will mess you up. At least it messes me up. So that one's a really important one I've been internalizing. And then the second one is one I heard very recently, and it's And it comes to like maintaining your schedule, right? So the saying is, right, people go out, they're partying, or they're out with friends and just happen to stay up late. And when you're out with your friends and your boys, or you're out by yourself late at night, you the man, right? Like you dress nice, you got your favorite fragrance on. But then in the morning, you might be like, if you drunk, you're like hungover a little bit, and you're like, oh, maybe I can sleep in, or maybe I'll just wake up later or not work as hard today. And the saying was, if you want to be the man at night, you got to be the man in the morning as well. So that one's a really big one I've been practicing lately, because it's like sometimes, like you just mentioned earlier, you woke up at like 2 a.m., right? And you were like working, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it doesn't matter. Sometimes if you get 2 or 3 hours of sleep, like you wanted to be the man at night, right? Now it's 9 a.m. 8 a.m. You got to hop on the podcast, right? You got to be the man in the morning as well.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's a good one.
What about you guys? What are some of your favorite quotes?
This is mine. Is you build the infamy off the content you produce, and
Right.
I just seen a lot of people, they start producing content, and I think it's the biggest driver of our success is just producing content, which is why we're here.
Yep, absolutely. Incredible.
Just my dad used to say, he would just say, always have your word. If you don't have anything else, just always have your word and nothing else. I grew up on that one. It's still one of my favorites. I didn't understand it for the longest time because I didn't know how like just being a good, honest person would pertain to making you successful in business. Right? He wasn't a very good businessman at all, but
right,
it's just the core values ended up turning into be like some of my greatest business assets. And then another one, I don't even know who it is or who it attributes to, and I always mess quotes up, so I might say it wrong. But they say, "No great mind has ever existed without a touch of madness." And I feel like it does take a little bit. Like you have to be a little insane to create something amazing and something grand. Right, like the Teslas and the Elon Musks and these great minds. It's like they weren't exactly probably all the way sane, right? Because I talked about like creating your own reality, right? In business, like you pick an end goal in mind, and then you have to have this imagined reality that doesn't exist anywhere else inside of your own brain. That's insanity. That's definition textbook insanity. So if you see a vision and you see what the outcome is going to be, you have to believe in it so much that you don't think that like it may or may not happen, right? Like it's gonna happen. Like I already see it; it's clearly there, right? But everybody else around you is like, that thing doesn't exist. You're a maniac, right? So you got to have that little bit of touch of madness to be able to push yourself into those places that would otherwise like kill a regular human being. Because if you're trying to build something so massive, it'll take a toll on your nervous system, burnout, those kinds of things. But if you have that level of belief driving you, then you know where you're headed. So it's a lot easier for you to get there because it doesn't feel stressful. Because I think that aspect is missing. Is like it possibly could not happen, but in my mind, like it's already happened. I'm already there.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. I think you really have to see it in your mind before it actually happens. Otherwise, the things that happen in your day to day, they're going to deter you from that vision.
Yeah. To piggyback off what your dad had told you about being a man of your word, right? This happened like a year ago. So, we got leads coming in, we got land for sale. A lot of times, sometimes the leads aren't serious. So I was like talking to this guy and he's like, oh, can you like send me, can you contact the county and learn about like this zoning division or whatever and get back? Or, what he wanted to know is, so this is like a mountain parcel we have. And he wanted to know whether or not it was landfill underneath or if it was a rock. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's a rock, like it's like a mountain, right? But he was like, can you please call the county? And this parcel was not a very expensive parcel. And the buyer, you could tell he was not serious just by like the tonality of his language, right? And he was like, "Oh, can you call the county and like figure this out for me?" And it's it's like I didn't take it too seriously. And I guess like a week later, he told me to call him back like Friday or something, like 3 days later. Then a week passes by. It's like Monday the next week, and he calls me and he's like, "Oh, hey, you never came back to me with that info." He's like, "What's up with that? A man is only as good as his word." And I was like, what? I was like, you said what? I was like, so this is just like some old guy, right? He wanted to maybe like have his little like cabin in the mountains, and like he's like roasted me, So that ever since like that was a very changing moment in like how I carried myself and how following up with leads properly. If somebody's, it doesn't matter if they have 50,000 or 3,000 to spend. It's like you got to give everyone the same treatment.
Mm-hmm. That's good, man. That's funny, man. You got roasted by a seller.
Yeah,
you're harder than an old man because they already been there, done that, no filter.
That's funny, man. So we're coming to the end of the show. I think we covered a lot of great topics. We never plugged in where where people can find your education. Where can people find that?
Yeah. So it's statelyllc.com. That's going to be our website. And then I'm really active on Twitter, not so much on the other channels. My handle is at Jazz, JAZZ 0 or O0O. Super weird name. Don't ask me about it.
Yeah, you gotta make it simple. That's why I'm Daniel Hivemind.
There you go. Yeah, I learned that the hard way.
Where can people find you online, Zuhayr?
Sure, yeah. If you want to get into contact with me, I would say Instagram is probably the best because I'm very active on Instagram, and it's at PROFZUHAYR. So like at Prof Zuhayr, like Professor Zuhayr.
I love it, man. That's super cool. We're gonna have to have that neuroscience conversation.
I love to, yeah. I'm
Absolutely,
telling you,
man.
right? Like we can talk about this all day as well.
I'll nerd out on you guys if y'all want to go down those rabbit holes. That'll take a couple shows to cover it.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see us there. You'll see us in those rabbit holes right there with you.
Yeah, this was great. Like I feel like invigorated. We talked about like a lot of like very motivational topics, like like how to sharpen your mind, how to be iron-minded. I felt like going into Monday today, right? Like I'm
Ready
like
to kill it.
I'm ready to go. Yeah, literally, yeah, ready to go.
Well, I have a side question. Have you guys ever done a podcast before? Or is this the first
We
one?
have not. No, this is actually my first one.
Yeah, first one as well.
All right.
I would say if you're going to push out any kind of product or services, right, to the masses, I think podcast is probably the single best tool for that. Daniel's the one that talked me into it. I'm like, dude, I hate having meetings. I love to keep a loose schedule. Like as soon as I get up, I shower. We'll probably head to the gym, but then all my meetings start like at 12. And after that, I kind of like to be free flowing. I don't like having things all over my calendar because it can't be fluid, right? Seller calls me and it's like, can you be over here in an hour? Yes, I can be there. I think I didn't want to have more things on my plate. Like, so Daniel's like, we got to do this podcast thing. And like, here we are almost 400 episodes later, but people will reach out to us we've never even heard of before. And they've like already bought products and services from us by the time they even talk to us. Like, hey, I'm already in the group. I already bought this. I got this. And so I was like, that's pretty powerful, pretty powerful to build a brand and to get that exposure to be out there talking to people. It does carry itself, amazing, because not only for selling products and services, but also people bring us deals. I don't even know who this guy is. He just randomly sends me a message on Facebook like, hey, I got 500 acres by Dallas. Can you help me? Thank you. Why not?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I used to actually watch some of your guys' content, and then I was, I have those long drives, probably an hour, 45 minutes. So, in the background, music's great and all, but like I need to, resharpen the mind, train the mind, learn new things. And what better way to do that than the next best thing is, informational content like podcasts, stories from, great businessmen. And then I stumbled upon your guys' stuff, and I was just like curious, down the rabbit hole. And now here we are, like on it itself. It's actually, it truly is full circle. It's awesome.
And that's amazing, man. Thanks for listening to you never know when you first start out and you got like 2 views and 3 views, you're like, oh, maybe nobody ever going to listen to this thing. And then later on, thousands of views a month. So it's a cool transition. But I was going to talk about, I tricked my brain. Like we play these little games with ourselves, right? To be able to make things easier in life. I've done that with traffic, right? So same thing. I'm driving and I'm listening to podcasts, right? Different types of things about, lots of science, lots of health stuff. And like sometimes I get to my destination after an hour and a half of traffic and I'm like, dang it, this podcast was almost over. I just needed 10 more minutes of traffic,
Yeah.
Instead of somebody that's driving in traffic and they're super stressed out. Oh, traffic was crazy today. But to me, I've turned it into like something positive, right? So again, like just trying to keep that cognitive loading to a minimum is like something so dumb that you can't control, like traffic. Somebody would that would ruin somebody's day. And for me, it's like I needed 15 more minutes of traffic today to finish my podcast.
Yeah. The worst is when you're like in the zone listening and somebody calls you and it like pauses it. I'm like, bro,
why didn't you just text me? That's another one. So yeah, they kind of break that pattern in your brain. You're flowing and you're getting into the information. Like, yes, this is amazing. Wow, I've never heard that before. And then ring. Like, dude, you should have texted me this. Why'd you call?
Yeah. I suppose I just had like one question for you guys. So one of our like key principles, if not like the principle that we like to share, is that when it comes to land, the win is always in the buy. Because if you're able to buy it at a very good price, you can always sell it for a very good price. Do you guys have any like key principle that like you guys abide by?
I'll tell you one of my main ones, and this is going to be disturbing to a lot of investors, But I always say don't negotiate on price. Give the seller exactly what they want, and that makes for a smooth, easy transition. It's probably on a bigger deal, probably works better. But if the seller's like, I gotta get my million, I'll get you the million. One way or another, I'll get you the million. Can we do 500,000 down and the rest at 0% interest? But that's one of my big ones, man. Is as long as that seller gets the number in their mind that they think that they're getting and they're happy with that, then we can do all kinds of crazy stuff on the back end on terms, right? So we can buy a property for $1 million at 0% interest, sell it for $950 at 11.99% interest, and make like $3 or $4 grand a month in cash flow. So I would say don't negotiate on price. Probably is the biggest one for heading into these bigger deals.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've never heard that one before. No, nice.
I don't know what he was gonna say, because I was gonna say the same thing. I think it's changed our business a lot. Is we don't negotiate on price. Like if they have it listed for that price, we just offer that price.
We call an offer listing price. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like you're kind of giving the seller what they want, so they're winning, and then it builds that layer of trust between both of you guys.
Like, I got 10 low balls. If you low ball me, I'm going to hang up on you. Well, how much are you asking? I want $1.5 million. Well, that's my offer. Chances are, let me take a closer look at this thing. I could probably get you $1.6 million or $1.7 million. Just let me have a look at it. I'll call you back.
Yeah, even to the point where we don't even. This is, I think, is crazy about our business model, is that we stop marketing direct to sellers personally, and we just go off of the MLS, and we're making offers off the MLS, full price offers, shooting fish in a barrel. Where now the agent, we're negotiating a $9 million deal right now, and the agent's like, "Hey, where's that offer?"
Now they want to talk to us, right? Where the sellers are trying to avoid you, the agents are after you, right? So we came up with a new term. So instead of us looking for motivated sellers, we're looking for motivated agents, because you'll see that some of these agents have had a property listed for almost a year already, over a year. The agent's more motivated than the seller. So the lady told us straight up, she's like, this seller's not motivated at all. If you offer $10 less than full asking price, he's not going to do it. And all this, she gave us all the reasons why the seller wasn't going to go on with any kind of tricks, nothing. He just wanted his cash. And then now the agent is pulling in our direction. She's like almost working for us now, because she's ready to get out of it. It's been like a year and a half, almost 2 years. So you find yourself a motivated agent, they'll help you get that deal done.
And then this is for everybody here too, as land is time's on your side. I mean, we've gotten deals 3-6 months later. We've been in negotiations for 3 months. I've been working on a land deal for 4 years. Like if you're in a fast money game, land is not your space. Like most of our deals take 6 months to a year, and I'm okay with that. So if you do, I tweeted this yesterday. It was like, if you need to get paid weekly, land isn't your thing.
Yeah. What did Corey say about it? He goes, "Oh, that the average person, if he's doing those deals like you guys are doing, they'll starve to death or something like that."
Yeah.
Because they're so big and heavy to move. So that's another one of our 10 commandments is to just don't be a well hunter. Just don't only do big deals. Like you got to have a blend of the two. So I think that's a smart strategy, is to have some small stuff in the pipe, and then while you're working on some of these wells, like that deal, that was a listed deal. That one, we're going to try to make 3.5 to 5 million on it on 136 acres. We're trying to borrow 1.8 million right now.
That's awesome.
Like in a week, we just found out about this deal like 10 days ago, right? So like, who has $2 million I could use? With 1.8 purchase price, 3.5 low end profit, 5 high end on the profit, and that's a listed deal. So there's not even any reason to pull any lists or do any of that stuff anymore.
I think what Daniel said was like really important, right? As like a salesman, right? You have to at least have like some emergency savings, right? Because or else you'll do anything for a sale. You'll compromise on maybe your commandment of making sure the seller gets his price, right? Because like how you need to pay the bills, right? So I think what Daniel said was spot on.
So one last question for you guys. How do you recommend, because like some of our students, they are doing the smaller deals, sub 1 acre. How do you recommend they transition from those smaller deals to the bigger ones, the 50, the 100 acre lots, things like that?
For one, definitely stick with the small ones. But I would tell them to do, like, if you're doing time blocking, right? Or if they're just like chalking up what they're doing, like just writing down their metrics, I would say convert at least like 20 to 30% of their time and energy into going after big deals. So they're still doing exactly what you're teaching them on the front end, right? So they can make sure, again, that they're paying their bills, because this is an easy game to starve to death in. Right. And then with that last little, they make 7 phone calls on the 1 acre and below, and those last 3 phone calls are properties that are valued at $1 million and up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's the only way to really do it, is just to go ahead and just jump in there and start having those conversations. And at first, it's uncomfortable, but with Daniel,
very, very uncomfortable if you're
Dude,
just
now again, like I'm all about playing these mind games with yourself, right? So if you just tell yourself like the numbers don't matter, and sooner or later you start to believe it, right? And now even beyond that, if I talk to a seller that like where the deal's like worth 100 grand, I'm like, I'm not a waste of time, right? Because I even $1 I would appreciate, right? Even nothing. We've done a lot of deals and made zero on them just because we're helping people out, either the seller or the wholesalers that brought them to us. But it's like I don't get those warm and fuzzies off $100,000 deal. But when somebody sends me a deal and it's like 4 or 5 million, and I'm looking at it, like I get energized, I get excited. I'm like, oh man, this is a deal. This is about to go down. But it feels like everybody's gonna win. All 4 of us on this screen are gonna make 250 each. You know, the seller's gonna get his price. Like, so it gives you a lot of joy and excitement to talk to where a new person might pick up the phone and talk to a $3 million deal and they feel intimidated, butterflies. They're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I've already tricked myself now doing it the other way. So if it's a $10 million deal, like we're negotiating, the one Daniel was talking about, I'm more excited to take those phone calls. There's no more like intimidation factor at all. Like, this is going to be a heck of a deal. Like, this is awesome. I'm looking at a $15 million ranch right now. The guy wants $5 million down. And I'm like, I think I'm going to buy it. Do I have 5 million liquid sitting around? No, but I'll find a creative way to put this deal together because I know the guy. So like, in my mind, like I'm already buying that ranch. Like, it's happening. I'm going to find that money.
Nice. The crazy thing about what we do is that, like, the $9 million deal, we didn't call the seller. Our 22-year-old student called the seller.
One of our students who hasn't even got a deal yet.
He works in Costco.
Getting a $10 million deal.
That's
And like,
the benefit of the network.
And for him, he's just extra. We tell everybody to exercise the muscle. Like, me and Anthony can make phone calls all day long, and you're not going to really learn if you just listen to them. But if you make the phone call, if you go out, make the offer, you go out and talk to the agent, you're going to build the best education you're going to get. So like, he's like, what do I offer? So I'm like, right, offer this. So he's like, yeah, offer this. And he may not even know what the offer even means, but for him, like, he's just parroting. But that alone, like, he's building confidence. Like, imagine me personally, and if I was in his shoes, I'd be like, I would have lost my mind years ago. Like, why am I talking to this agent that represents a $10 million property? Am I nuts? Like, I don't even have $1,000. You know, like it's like a psychology thing where like, why am I doing this? Like, I know I'm not going to purchase it, but it's one of those things where, like, for him, he's like, he made the phone call. Like, I didn't help him. I didn't coach him. He's been on enough of our calls where he's like, he had the energy and the fortitude and internal strength to make the phone call himself. So I'm like, hey, if you want to make the phone call, here, say this, offer this, email this, email the agent, and like, we're empowering him to be that person, even though he's not necessarily not that person right now, but he's exercising it.
Yeah. I feel like, that's truly the best way to learn. Do it. Like, in theory, everything, like, if you learn about it, you don't really practice it. The theory, everything sounds nice, but like actually going out and practicing it, 2 different things.
Yeah, it's so great to see like 2 partners who are always inspiring each other to push their boundaries. I think that's like a very key aspect of a partnership in itself. It's like, yeah, sure, like, you help me out, and like we get deals done, but it's like, you make me into like a superhero,
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing right now. So like, I got Daniel on some of the supplements and some of the stuff I'm taking now. And I'm like, bro, if you want to be the part, you gotta look the part, you gotta feel the part. Right. So yeah, now we got Daniel on a little health journey now. So not just business, but I want to see him win at everything,
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah,
Love
yeah, seriously, yeah, that's so cool. I think that's like probably why you guys work so well together, right? Because you're willing to accept, what the other person has to say, like, you just don't take what they say for granted.
Always, man. So we're both like, we're very, very headstrong type A personalities, but we take each other's advice. Right. So I don't call him, no, man, you don't know what you're talking about. He'll call me, and he doesn't also doesn't do it for me. You know what I mean? Like, we'll immediately say that's a pretty good idea, or like, I see what you're saying. I'll make my own version of it. But we're always like malleable. We're willing to help each other and to pivot on a second because we know we have each other's best interest in mind.
Yeah, I feel like that's the one of the foundations of partnership. That's kind of what's needed, is you guys really inspire each other, and you guys are like the yin and yang. You're collaborating, and you're bringing out the best in each other.
Yeah, man, we see that same thing in you guys. So this is amazing. Even now, meeting your partner, like there's even more overlap. So this is crazy. Like I said, when you meet complete strangers, and it's like, oh dang, we're running the same ship. Like, this is amazing. That's cool, man. So this was a fun one. I'm sure we could probably do round 2. We can go a little bit deeper into a lot of other stuff. Maybe we'll segue a little bit away from the land and start talking about some other science madness. But yeah, it was fun, man. We appreciate you guys being on here.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you, Daniel.
Thanks for having
It was
us.
definitely a pleasure.
Well, thanks for coming on. If you enjoyed this episode, go like, subscribe, share with a friend. If you listen to it in the car in traffic, hope you make it to the end. But we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching this YouTube video. We hope you found value. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Watch more videos just like this one.